Welcome back to The Explainer. Are you ready for this? Because we are smack in the middle of a massive structural shift in how we get around, and I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through it today. We're diving deep into the master plan for America's EV infrastructure. Now, if you follow the electric vehicle space, you already know the cars themselves are incredible pieces of technology. But, the conversation always seems to circle back to the ecosystem supporting them, right? So today, we're going to break down how a pretty fascinating combination of national corporate giants and hyper-local community initiatives are literally rewiring that ecosystem from the ground up.
But first, let's be real for a second and address the elephant in the room. When you talk to someone who's on the fence about buying an EV, what's the number one roadblock they bring up? Almost every single time, it's range anxiety. It's that very real, nagging fear of being stranded on a long road trip or worrying that charging is going to be too complicated, too expensive, or just completely out of reach if you don't happen to own a home with a private garage.
Well, despite those reservations, this transition is already happening, and I mean at lightning speed. Just to give you a sense of the sheer scale here, consumer demand on the EVgo fast charging network alone has spiked by a massive 700% over the last 3 years. Just let that sink in. 700%. The demand is charging ahead regardless of any hesitation, which means the infrastructure has to catch up, and it has to do it brilliantly.
Okay, let's just dive right into it. Today, we'll be covering the infrastructure evolution, followed by conquering the open road, elevating the charging experience, standardizing for the masses, equitable access for all, and finally, we'll wrap up with the road ahead.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the infrastructure evolution, identifying the barriers.
The latest initiatives from automakers and local governments aren't just about sticking random plugs in the ground anymore. They are systematically answering consumers' biggest complaints: where to charge, plug compatibility, and keeping things affordable. The core strategy here is a true spatial evolution. EVs aren't just for early adopters coasting around wealthy suburbs now. This infrastructure is actively touching every facet of American life, stretching from those massive interstate highways to the mid-level city hubs where we shop, all the way down to local public housing.
Moving right along to Section 2, conquering the open road, the macro network.
For a long time, taking an EV on a cross-country trip felt like a total logistical nightmare if you weren't driving a very specific brand of car. But that macro scale is completely transforming. A huge part of this is the collaboration between Pilot, General Motors, and EVgo. They literally just surpassed a major milestone: 300 fast-charging locations featuring 1,300 fast-charging stalls across 40 states. To put that into perspective, this single network now covers about 75% of the contiguous U.S. That's over 2.2 million square miles of coverage. So what does that actually mean for you as a driver? It means those iconic American road trips are now fully supported. You can cruise from San Antonio all the way across the South to Jacksonville. You can go from Music City in Nashville straight to the coast of Charleston, or head down from Detroit to Tampa. You can even explore the desert from White Sands in New Mexico over to Saguaro in Arizona. The open road is officially open for EVs, and yeah, you can finally leave the backup generator at home. Which brings us to Section 3, elevating the charging experience, mid-level flagships. Let's be honest, standing around in a dark, empty parking lot waiting for your car to charge isn't exactly a premium experience, right? The industry knows this, which is why they are building out the gas station of the future, these mid-level, high-tech flagship charging hubs. Take the new one that just opened at a Meijer across from GM's Global Tech Center in Michigan. It is packed with amenities. We're talking pull-through stalls so you don't even have to unhitch your trailer, and crazy fast 350 kilowatt speeds. That can get you charged in like 15 minutes, which is barely enough time to grab a coffee. Plus, they've got overhead weather canopies and direct access to shopping and dining. It's all about integrating the charge seamlessly into your day. And listen, they are moving fast on this. EVgo anticipates having over 100 of these elevated flagship stalls online by the end of 2026 across places like California, Florida, Texas, and Michigan. This timeline is absolutely crucial for delivering a reliable experience, and honestly, drivers are noticing. This collaborative network has already pulled in a 9.41 out of 10 score on PlugShare, which, if you don't know, is basically the Yelp for EV drivers. All right, Section 4, standardizing for the masses, universal plugs. Even with stations popping up left and right, there's always been this lingering fear of pulling up and having the wrong plug. It's kind of like having a USB-C cable when you desperately need a lightning cable, but, for a 2-ton vehicle. Thankfully, the new hardware is aggressively solving this. The game changer here is called the Magic Dock. EVgo is rolling out new V4 superchargers that output a staggering 500 kilowatts at 1,000 volts. And thanks to that magic dock, they'll let both CCS, which older EVs use, and NACS, the Tesla standard, charge natively. No clunky adapters needed.
The integration here is absolutely crucial. Because these new superchargers support the NACS standard natively, they're actually going to pop up directly on the in-car navigation of Tesla vehicles. With over 3 million Teslas on U.S. roads right now and over 35 NACS-equipped models from other brands coming by the end of 2026, millions of drivers are going to be seamlessly routed straight to these sites using their native trip planners. Okay, transitioning to Section 5, Equitable Access for All, the micro network. This is where things get really innovative. We're zooming all the way down to the micro, hyper-local level. Because look, if EVs are only for wealthy homeowners with private driveways, the whole transition basically fails. Framingham's mayor, Charlie Sositsky, really hit the nail on the head here when he said transportation should never be a barrier to opportunity. That's the exact mission behind the new $1 million community EV car share pilot in Greater Boston. It's a grant-funded program purposefully dropping electric vehicles and solar-powered chargers straight into locations that traditional transit has completely underserved. To really grasp why car sharing matters, you just have to look at the numbers. A single shared vehicle can replace 9 to 13 privately owned cars. And that makes total sense when you realize this wild statistic. The average U.S. car sits parked 95% of the day. Think about that. Furthermore, while an average household spends 15% of its income on transit, low-income households are often spending over 30%. Affordable EV car sharing relieves that massive financial burden without the heavy upfront cost of buying a car. And here is where it beautifully ties back into our infrastructure conversation. Traditional grid-tied charging in cities, it requires months of permitting, super expensive trenching through concrete, and endless utility bills. But this pilot uses the Beam EV Arc solar charging unit. It is 100% renewable, completely off-grid, generates zero utility bills, and get this, it can be fully deployed in a matter of hours, not months, hours. The logistics for this pilot, honestly, they're incredibly straightforward. Members get access to Kia Niro and Hyundai Kona EVs, getting an impressive 240-plus miles of range. Eligible residents pay just a $35 annual membership, which is a 60% discount. And once you're in, it's an absolute steal at a flat rate of just $11 an hour on weekdays. Oh, and yes, that covers insurance, maintenance, and the whole shebang when it comes to charging. Because these specific solar chargers don't require all that messy trenching, they're being beta tested immediately, exactly where they're needed. They're going right into the Chelsea and Boston housing authorities, downtown Quincy, and the local transit authority in Framingham. It's a brilliant off-grid strategy that lets community leaders bypass the usual bureaucratic red tape and drop clean transportation right at the doorsteps of public housing.
Which brings us to our final part today, Section 6, the road ahead and inevitable transition.
When you stack all this progress together, the macro highway corridors, as premium mid-level flagships, universal plugs, and these hyperlocal solar car shares, you realize every single major argument against EVs is systematically being dismantled. Right now, we're in this critical data gathering phase. By the end of 2027, the data from that regional car share pilot, combined with the usage stats from those 300-plus highway locations, is going to dictate exactly how permanent infrastructure is built for the next decade. The whole ecosystem is scaling at speeds we have literally never seen before.
So I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. With 350 kilowatt fast chargers blanketing our highways, universal plugs finally killing the adapter headache, and off-grid solar car shares bringing EVs directly to underserved communities, is the era of range anxiety finally over? It certainly feels like we're arriving at our destination. Thank you so much for joining me to explore all this today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.